Welcome to Fathom's Expert Series. We chat with advisors, accountants and finance leaders to learn how they're using Fathom to deliver clarity and confidence and help businesses thrive. We're talking processes, top tips and key learnings. Join us for a great conversation. Hi, welcome back. It's great to have you with us. Episode 8 features our reporting remix. We've got 3 of our US customers talking to us about scaling, customization and automation, and how they're giving insights to their clients in the most tailored way possible. Let me introduce you to our US dream team. We kick off with Keila Hill-Trawick. Keila is the founder and CEO of Little Fish Accounting, a boutique firm that helps small businesses make a big impact. Keila is a member of Intuit's Partner Council and host of the Fish Food podcast. This year, she was named in Forbes' top 200 accountants list. Patrick Ball is the Director of Technology, Innovation and Partnerships at top 100 accounting firm Aprio. In 2023, Aprio was named the fastest growing accounting firm in the US. Patrick's team have onboarded over 700 companies in Fathom. They work at large scale and specialise in a health services vertical. And then we round out our reporting rewind with Geni Whitehouse. She's an Accounting Today top 100 accountant, President of the Information Technology Alliance, a keynote speaker and founder at The Impactful Advisor. If you'd like to find out more, you can find the full in-depth interviews with our customers on the Fathom Expert Series page. Go to www.fathom.com and you can find more insights, processes and best tips and tricks there. We hope you enjoy episode 8. Going into the reports that you provide, can you talk us through the structure of those reports? What works best for your clients and how long does it take to put those together?
They're really fast now because we have templates. So we set up templates based on the types of service that they're in Fathom. And we have it built out to everything from a simple version to a more complex version. We add some nuances and personalization based on the client. We know that some people want to see it by month. Some people only want to see it by quarter. We have some more details, like we add a letter at the top that acts as kind of a summary of like, this is your revenue and expenses. This is your net cash flow. It takes really no time to build them in Fathom. We use more of the time to just analyze what's in there to make sure we're answering questions before they're asked. Hey, why did this number go up? Why is this over budget? Was it a paycheck month? So that we're not arbitrarily just saying you were over budget on this thing. And we'll talk about budgets and forecasts later, but really just making sure that they know the distinction between the two so that their financial statements themselves almost act as archival information. It happened last month. We want to make sure that you have this historical data on hand, but we want to spend our time together talking about what's coming next. So this is our report. We start with this letter. And then we go into revenue and expenses. And then we give them some charts because sometimes they can see it better. This is a client that tends to like to see it on quarters. And then we break down their revenue by type so that they can see like where they're making money for the month and year to date. So if they've got goals, like we actually want 50% of our income to be coming from here, we can show them that. And then we go into profitability, showing some snapshot numbers for them so that they can tell like how much cash is there, how much do they have available, how many months that will cover. And then we show their profitability. A lot of this too is really good for people who don't have losses as often. So like this is a client that I know she's gonna be like, oh my gosh, we have a loss. So it's nice to be able to show her, well, throughout the year, this is not a regular occurrence for you. Look how often you're actually above the line. And then we go through their actual financials, their revenue versus budget. We call out anything that's specific. We also use this as a point to say on our next call, if I've noticed that like a lot of this was under budget, we need to have a conversation and update the budget. We always make them a zero-based budget so that that can be their baseline of like, you need to make at least this much to cover expenses. And then we use their forecast to say, this is what's actually happening. So we check in on their budget twice a year mostly. And then we do just revenue versus budget so that if they've got some targets that they're trying to hit, we can. Then we have some shorter ones on there, year-to-date P&L, and then versus prior year. and revenue. She really likes her revenue broken down, so we do everything twice. And then typically we just look at their balance sheet. Normally they don't have this month, but we just look at it to say, is there anything obvious that stands out? We like to say that your balance sheet is boring, so we're not worried about anything. That's good. And then we do their budget versus forecast comparison. So we look at what they've done so far and what their budget is for the rest of the year. This is really helpful for, we have this client and another client who looks at most of their stuff on a yearly basis. And so being able to say, if this is what you have to make for the rest of the year in order to break even, can you? Do you have the things in place that would actually pay for that? And then we look at the forecast by quarter, and we do all of their forecast individually within Fathom. So we go line by line and update their forecast based on budget or the smart functionality to do previous quarters or previous months, average or linear regression. And then we have a section for taxes to basically just say, this is what we think you should be doing this month. This is what you've made so far year to date and what your taxes are. And then this is how much you've paid in taxes. So this is also a point for us if they haven't been paying their estimated taxes to say, this is what we estimate you're probably going to owe, and you don't have any money that came out yet, so you can be aware of it. And then just a reminder of the deadlines over here.
Wonderful. That report, I love the colors. Website theme colors, but that is a very well organized report. Love the taxes section. I didn't even think about adding that.
We had a tax one that is what that year end one looked like, but I think we ended up taking it off because we didn't have to pay for an extra company because they only get it once a year. But we have one that we were like rotating out clients for at the end of the year to say, all right, this is all the stuff we see. Here is kind of your year-end summary for taxes. And we were able to do that by streamlining everybody's chart of accounts so that it's easy to pull in to say, here's your estimated federal taxes that you paid. Here's the dates that those were paid. And we gave that, and people really liked it at the end of the year.
Keila, talk us through what are the biggest challenges from your client's perspective in terms of their understanding? Do most clients, when they look at the report, do they get it straight away?
So one of the things that has really helped us is that we built a resource library of information that can help clients before they need it. So for example, even clients who don't get monthly calls with us actually get a video that says, this is how you look at your balance sheet and your P&L. How much is outstanding? Does that seem right to you? Should we be having conversations about whether or not that's the right number? Do you understand your profit and loss and what types of income are coming in? And does that kind of vibe with what you were expecting to actually happen within the business financials? The other thing that I think happens is that people just don't know where to look. And so our resource library is really supportive in blog posts and guides. So if we get enough questions about something, we will make a thing on it.
Wow, I love that. You're proactive on so many fronts with your clients' information needs.
Yeah, we didn't know that at first. And I think the more you do, the more you learn, the more questions that we got about it, the more we realized, oh, this should exist. The more people that asked us, I don't understand why I don't have any money if I have a profit. We were like, oh, that's a KPI that we need to add in Fathom when we give you your financials so that everybody can see, oh, there's a difference between what the profit was and what the net cash flow is. And we can talk about what that difference is, but it doesn't have to start from what does this even mean? How come I'm not seeing that?
I love this phrase you use, Keila, where you talk about super serving your clients. Can you talk us through just how you streamline your service offering and what that looks like at the moment?
Yeah, when we started, we had a buffet. So basically, if you asked us for a thing that was accounting related, I was like, I could do that. And it cost this much. And then we would do it. And we were always starting from scratch because there was no scalability. There was no streamlined version of like what this looked like. If you asked me for a thing, I would kind of build you a package on the spot. The other thing that I realized really early on is as long as we were doing ad hoc things, there were gaps in between that business owners didn't necessarily know how to do for themselves. So a perfect example is tax returns. Annual tax returns, we can prepare them for you. You owe. We say, hey, part of the reason you owe is because you didn't make any estimated payments last year. So you should do that this year. This is when they're due. This is when you should do them. Cool. And so our idea of super serving was, what does it mean for us to say, hey, what if we did that for you? What if you didn't have to worry about that part? And part of our relationship with you was just going to be, we will take care of this for you. What should that cost? What would that look like? And what would allow clients to be able to do? And how could we make it so that we could serve you better and provide this for you in a way that we could streamline across the board? And so once we figured that out, that became a new service offering within our tiers. When we talk about services, our tax prep suite is really the baseline. And we wanted to make sure that with all our service that you were getting year-round support, that nothing that we did for you was like, we're going to do a deliverable and then that's going to be the end for you. So we've always used Fathom and just kind of got better and better at using it to deliver financial statements, but also to speak to the other parts of the business. For example, now we added a section for taxes. How much should you be saving towards taxes for this month? How much have you paid already this year? When is the upcoming tax deadline? Like, how can we get that information in front of you as part of your monthly financials so that all of our services come together? One of the main things is that we wanted to make accounting information accessible. And so we start from a place of, a lot of people ask this question. Here's the stuff you should know to get started. And I really think that it's important that business owners and entrepreneurs have a soft place to land when they have questions, that they're able to be proactive about looking forward, and that they can feel like they're getting more than the deliverable, that our job isn't to like hand you financial statements or hand you tax returns, because if you can't interpret them and understand them, then I feel like we haven't really completed our role for you.
Patrick, efficiency and automation doesn't equal generic outputs for clients. So talk us through how you've set up your report so that you can be really client-centric in the insights that you're bringing to them in this vertical that you're specializing in.
Yeah, absolutely. So Fathom has a great layout of templates already. We were able to take one of those reports and make it the Aprio way. So we have in that report at the top, the basis of preparation that's controlled at the master level, so everybody sees it, that these are not audited financials, and go ahead and get that CYA statement out of the way. But then we were able to customize the report that our clients see, having our open items and questions at the very top so that the client knows the rest of this report is affected by these items. And then we're able to have graphs that clients understand around revenue and profitability, along with the P&L, and we'll tour the report we've created here in a little bit as well. But the multi-layers that Fathom allows us to go to make this data all understandable for somebody whose background isn't accounting, right? Like, we're dealing with dentists and doctors here. So allowing for somebody who doesn't live in this every day to understand this information was critical, and making those reports beautiful that people could understand was really one of our primary objectives, and I would say we have achieved that.
So Patrick, you've talked about two styles of reports. You've got your standard report and then a very customizable report that your advisors build to have that conversation and translate the numbers and bring insights that are very customer centric. Are you able to show us through your standard report that you use at Aprio?
Yeah, absolutely. So I have it pulled up over here. I'm going to share my screen. This is our standardized report that our accounting team provides to clients every month. As we talked about, advisors custom create their own for their clients, kind of guide their conversations, but we'll take you through the standardized reports that our accountants are sending out every month, every quarter, whatever the client needs and they're signed up for in one of our multi-tiered packages here. So one of the cool things about Fathom is, of course, the logo customization here at the top, having the branding up here with Aprio. That's on every single report, controlled at the master, as is our basis of preparation, which you can see on our PDF version. A PDF report comes out just as any other PDF report would, and here's that basis of preparation. And you can scroll through and it's the same thing. Why I like using the online version is when we get to the graphs, you can hover over them, it'll show you the numbers. It's a little bit more interactive, which is really cool. But going to the customization piece that we've done, we put first up as our open items and questions. What we consider open items are the things we need from a client to do the bookkeeping and the accounting work. So, we are very automated and efficient, so we get third-party credentials that we link up to QuickBooks to Xero within our tech stack that allow our team members to push those transactions in. They come into QuickBooks, and along with our other automation that we've built that we like to internally call rapid rules that codes transactions into the proper accounts and those standardized COAs. We get those credentials. So if something breaks and it's a client's credential, for example, like I just put this Truist here as one, we use the same cadence every time for open items. What's the institution? What's the issue? And then what's the solution? So the client knows what they have to do. If there's any questions, we noticed a $3,000 invoice on June 5th. Can you please provide this for us? So that we need to make sure, does that need to go to fixed assets, or does that need to be broken up and go to expenses as well? So this is our moment to finalize the questions that we've probably been asking through the review process as well. If a credential breaks, this should not be the first time they're hearing about it as well. It might be for the questions on the fixed assets. But we have our KPI results. Now, these are all trending towards, the target is industry standards here. And you can see that we have staff expenses, clinical percentage. So what percentage of revenue should their clinical staff be paid? And when you look at it on the website, the analysis is really, really cool because you can drill in and see what make up those numbers. And you can see a full trend on the analysis as well. Part of the rollout that we really hadn't talked about too is making sure that your clients, you're not overloading them with too much information. So we're focused on reports, then benchmarks, then the analysis. Some of our tech savvy clients already are aware of the analysis section and already started using it, but not all are there yet. They like the delivered by email, which Fathom makes very simple. We created this cash on hand graph as well so that clients can see how much cash do they have on hand. And again, you can hover over $96,000 cash on hand. Might be a good opportunity for our advisors, for our staff, to be good stewards and say, wow, that's a lot of money to have on hand. How can we put that to use in the wealth management world as well? What should we be doing with that? And then we get into some of the graphs that Fathom already had pre-set up that we've kind of leveraged, if you will, in our reports as well with our revenue. What was the total revenue? What was last month? We don't have a lot of revenue accounts, but if you have clients that do, or an industry that does, you'll see the top 10 revenue accounts up here. And then, what has it done over the last 6 months? And then some year-to-date numbers. I'm a big fan of graphs. You can see here, we're not overloading a client with many numbers in a box like a P&L can be, but we've got the graph, and I think a good balance of line graph, chart graph, and everything. And some of our reports in the medical and the optometry world even contain the pie charts as well. Getting down into profitability, talking about the top 10 expense accounts. You can see the wages are up there, expenses to revenue, doing pretty well here. Our gross profit, operating profit, more graphs. And again, this is a custom one that we created, which is very, very easy to do. Again, it's playing around with it and clicking some buttons. I know it sounds a little bit simpler, but it's so user-friendly. You can get to what you can, and almost anything you see is clickable, to use that word, and can get to what you need to do. But this one's revenue versus wages, as you can see, and we were able to highlight the revenue here in the line graph with the wages being in our bar graphs down here below, which is really cool. And then expenses this year versus last year. Cash analysis, which we're looking at cash versus credit cards, obviously with $96,000 in the bank and minimal debt, looking really good right here from the credit cards. And then we can look at our total debt. And this is based off of our chart of accounts, which these are actually headers here. Equipment loans, PA loans stands for practice acquisition loans. So this helps solve that problem of when we have clients on different chart of accounts. By having a header and the COA being so easy to set up in Fathom, that doesn't affect Xero, doesn't affect QBO, we can all group these under the proper headers as well. So all of our equipment loans in here that you could see, a new equipment loan in September 2022, practice acquisition loans, no other loans. That can be a vehicle loan, something else, but typically they fall under two categories for our dentists here. And then we go into the profit and loss. We show a consolidating profit and loss for our clients that are on consolidated, because the consolidated groups are so well done here. We can have a client that has a Xero file and a QBO file depending on their industry, and it can consolidate here in Fathom, which is great. But the rest is the profit and loss and we show a trailing 12-month one of those, and then the balance sheet. But the differing levels with the first level of detail, second level of detail, and third level of detail helps make the profit and loss specifically a little bit more readable than here's every account. And it also helps feed into our KPIs as well. We're continuing to refine some of these reports as well, specifically those advisor ones. And as we work with the Fathom team too, some of the ideas and how we can better support our clients out there.
That's great, Patrick. One of the things you mentioned was around the KPIs you're tracking for your clients and those industry specific metrics that are common across a lot of your clients. How are you comparing performance and looking at what is good performance within your clients?
Yeah, absolutely. So with Fathom and being able to custom create our own KPIs, we are able to put the metrics that we care about when comparing to industry standard into Fathom. And those targets within dentistry, we have about 7 sub focuses between general dentistry, pediatric dentistry, oral surgery, and so on. Those are all slightly different targets in those KPIs, even though we use kind of the big 6 categories with clinical wages, front desk wages, advertising, occupancy, and non-operating. I think I'm missing one. But anyway, it allows us to compare against industry standards too, let alone like looking internally, because since we haven't rolled this out to the clients, at the benchmarking of where they stand. So an advisor that sees that can have a conversation and do a deep dive of why is this similar business doing better than you? Are they spending more on advertising and that's leading into more revenue? Those KPIs allow us to see that. And Fathom has, again, great KPIs that are already built into the system that you can use. But if you have any industry standards out there, you can go and create those. And it's almost as simple as just writing an Excel formula out there. As long as you have the right, again, I would say use the headers because that's going to be able to be on everything. Whereas if you have office expense and office expenses, that's going to create kind of an issue by not grabbing one or the other on accounts. That's where the headers come in such a great way.
Yeah, so connecting back, you've talked about the chart of accounts a fair amount, and you have a very similar or identical chart of accounts for most of your clients, but in those cases where it's a little different, it sounds like you can overcome that.
Yeah, absolutely. That's been one of the big things that we've heard from the team too that have dealt with these non-standard chart of accounts, as we like to call them. So they're a lot different, right? Like they have 7 office expenses and their legacy clients that aren't gonna change. And so it's allowed us to, within Fathom, change the chart of accounts, right? That's not gonna mess it up in QBO or Zero, but it's going to allow us to compare apples to apples as close as we possibly can and allow for our team to be reviewing the reports as close as possible to their standardized process as well, versus going outside and saying this is a little bit different. The feedback about the time savings has been huge on Fathom, in terms of total time savings. But we're growing, like you mentioned, left and right, dental specifically. So we needed these processes in place from an efficiency standpoint to allow ourselves to grow. And Fathom was just such a key part of that. And the team sees that because it's saving so much time on the back end for them.
We have all these magical pieces of information that we haven't figured out how to translate so that the client can do anything with it. And that's what the journey to be a partner in our client's success is all about. And that's why it's great to have tools like this that let us convert or translate the language of accounting into visual images that CEOs and business people can actually appreciate and understand. We start talking to them about what they want to achieve on the financial side. And 9 times out of 10, especially in our industry, the goal is to increase cash flow. They want positive cash. That's their biggest struggle because we have huge fluctuations in cost and in income streams. And so they want to know, why don't I have enough cash? What's going on? And that gives us a huge opportunity to show them or to educate them on the difference between profitability and cash. And that's where we use Fathom to illustrate that in a very visual way. So on your initial onboarding or prospecting meeting, you want to show them the kind of thing that you can do. and then create a billable service when they sign up with you at a very high rate now because you've wowed them so. And then you make this part of your service delivery, and you can do this quarterly or monthly or annually or whatever you want with the client. But every time you do this, they're going to feel like they understand the numbers that you provide for the first time probably ever. And the cool thing for us as accountants is I don't have to look at it in this pretty colorful way. This is scary to us accountants. This is like frou-frou-y, marketing-y, numbery stuff. I could go print my spreadsheets. I can export stuff to spreadsheets. I could get all kinds of cool reports out of here. I can get a list of KPIs that I generate. So what it allows us to do, though, is bridge my way of thinking about the information with the client's way. And when we can achieve that, that's when everybody wins. And that's when they see the value in this information that we deliver. So this is a KPI screen. I can do all kinds of cool things here. I can create custom ones. This revenue per case is a custom measure that we created. We bring in non-financial data to give clients really valuable, actionable insights into where the problems really are. And I can do all kinds of things here in different ways, but I can still get the data out in a way that I know that it matches what I have in my QuickBooks system or in my financial statements that I'm also producing. I can also present investor reporting in here. I can add comments and do all kinds of things. But if I will just do the goal seek screen and nothing else, and just with sample data, you will get those clients to come on board at a very different way and in appreciation of the value they're able to provide.
A common thing we hear, Geni, is the penny really drops when clients understand the difference between cash and profit. You alluded to this earlier.
You just see them light up. And because it's something, I mean, if you're running a business, you can't admit that you don't know what that difference is, even if you're in an executive level position. I was inside multiple software companies, and I was the director and then VP, and the financial statements would get passed out, and we were given objectives to improve some financial result. And everybody would go, and the CFO would go, everybody okay? And everybody go, mm-hmm. And then everybody go out in the hall and go, what was that? What am I supposed to do? What is this? What's an asset? And you get to a certain level in your career, and you're supposed to have this immediate accounting knowledge. And when somebody translates it like this, it empowers you to be able to finally make sense of it in a way that you can apply it now. So it's a huge educational tool. Plus, there's a forecast capability in here that creates a forecast very easily and quickly from the data that's already in QBO, and then you can modify it and do all kinds of cool stuff with it. So you can really do a whole bunch for that client in terms of getting context around the numbers and giving them context.
This is the last question for you, Geni.
Okay.
What's something that accountants don't talk about enough that we should be talking about?
Statement of cash flows. QuickBooks Online and many of the traditional accounting software packages do not make the cash flow statement, the statement of cash flows, a standard financial statement that you print. If you go to the QuickBooks standard menu, you have to search for the statement of cash flows. So I think I've been on a mission for this for a long time. If you do nothing else, make sure you review the cash flow statement with your clients so they can see where the money went. And it's on there on the financial. You can look down at it and see what the operational earnings were, what the operational cash flow was. You can see the financing cash flow and the investing cash flow, and you can see where it went and where it came in. And that's half the mystery for the clients. Even better is to do the goal seek where you can see the things that you can do to improve it. But a view of the cash flow statement should be a standard part of every financial conversation we have with clients, and it is not even printed most of the time. And Fathom has a visual representation of that cash flow statement that is an even more effective way to communicate how much of what you sold got consumed in bad cash management practices. So making the cash flow statement a standard part of every financial package is a shift that I think we should all be making.
Watch the full interviews with Keila, Patrick and Geni at fathom.com and find out how other advisors fathom it for clarity and confidence.